It's a few other things as well, yeah, but we won't go into that on the radio.
It's my 80s Rubik's Cube, you see, to get into the spirit of things.
Okay, I've just got it now, fair enough, the penny's just dropped, okay.
Took my auntie ages to show my squares.
Right, fair enough.
Now, to start with, Superman, love that song.
Oh, thank you, what a nice fella.
Yeah, we're playing it to death on the radio, and how did that come about?
I still tinkle with things with music and stuff, obviously. I mean, most of the gigs that I do, in absolute fairness, people want to hear my old stuff, and I totally understand that, and I'm happy to do it. But I still like writing songs and tinkering with stuff, and you know, the idea of actually having a hit record again, I think, is probably long gone. But that's okay. I still think I think anybody who's ever written songs, I don't think that ever goes away from you. Do you know what I mean? So. Yeah.
And do you find it a challenge to put new stuff out because you've been around since the 80s or not?
I don't know, it's a challenge. I think the challenge is not to get upset when it doesn't do anything. And I know it's the truth of it. You know, I've got friends who are big hit songwriters and write for other people and artists and produce and stuff. And I know how hard it is when you've got somebody who's actually hot right now. Do you know what I mean? It's still difficult. Even though they had 3 hits last summer, it's hard to do it again this year. So, you know, last time I had a hit was, you know, a different, I think it was a different, never mind, different decade, I think it was a different millennium, I think, yeah. So, you know, it's just a different world, and I think you've just got to be honest enough and own up to that, I think.
And when you look at that hit, Never Gonna Give You Up, you go in the studio, you record it for the first time, then, what, 25 countries #1?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, Stock Aitken Waterman had, you know, carved out a bit of a niche for themselves, but I think that song in particular, you know, I think it was just one of those songs where it just, I don't know, it just worked on the radio everywhere, really, so...
and still does?
Yeah, I guess it does to some degree, yeah, I mean, I think I got their best song, to be honest.
Now, was there much competitiveness? Because, of course, there were so many big artists on that label, or working with Stock Aitken and Waterman. It's been quite a place to
be. Yeah, it was. I mean, I enjoyed my time there, but mainly not because of the other artists, because to be honest, I didn't see much of them.
Right.
I made a lot of tea for Bananarama, so I kind of got to, not know them, but I kind of got to study them, let's say, from a distance. And I've got to know them as friends over the, you know, the last sort of, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years of doing gigs again and seeing them on the circuit, as it were. But at the time, to be honest, I didn't really get to know any of the artists.
And how does that work? Because wasn't it Kylie that stopped you getting your second #1?
I can't remember, to be honest. I mean, it was all a bit of a blur, really. I know that's a stock answer for a lot of people, but it kind of is. You're in a bit of a tumble dry and you just get on with it. I mean, you mentioned 25 countries before. You know, you're not just doing it in the UK, you're doing it everywhere. So you kind of come back from wherever it is, you know, somewhere in Europe, somewhere maybe, you know, America or Japan, somewhere as far-flung as that. And you just come back, and to you it's just like, oh my God, I'm back at home and what have you. But then you're kind of doing it again. And I was really lucky that I got the chance to do that on a kind of a worldwide basis. The only thing I would say is that it's harder to appreciate some of the things as they're happening to you, because you're just too tired to, do you know what I mean? I'm not like a moaning, it's not a moan, it's just, it's hard to get
busy schedule.
Yeah, it's hard to get perspective on it, because there isn't really much perspective, because you're just at it all the time. You know, pop careers are very, very condensed usually. The odd person, Madonna and a couple of others have managed to do it, you know, for decades. But most people get a run at it, and that might be 2 albums, it might be 5, whatever, but that's what most people kind of get. And you've just got to try and enjoy it while you can. But like I say, it's a lot of the things that happen to me, I'm on about the good things and what have you, you don't really appreciate them until you kind of wake up 10 years later and think, oh yeah, I did that. You know?
How did you feel about the whole Rick-rolling thing? When that happened in 2007, it brought the song back into the public eye, you got awards for it.
Yeah, it was kind of funny really, because obviously it could have been any video that the guy had chosen really to do that fun thing with and what have you, that prank thing, you know. So I don't really kind of, it hasn't really got anything to do with me, if you know what I mean. And so in that way, as long as I kept it like that, then I could see the funny side of it, really. You know,
but did you sit back and think, oh, this is pretty cool, oh God, everyone's going to hate me?
I didn't really think it was cool, because I think it took me quite a long time to actually get my head around it. Because obviously, you know, the internet moves so quickly these days that we get used to things almost within a 24-hour basis. Whereas even going back 5 or 6 years ago, when YouTube was in its infancy, really, it was still pretty weird to get a link to something and then be thrown onto YouTube and then be going, what am I watching? Do you know what I mean? Because the amount of times that someone's taken like a really famous clip of a movie or a video or whatever it is and altered it and changed it and what have you, which is, you know, obviously doing the Rick-rolling thing as well as taking my old video and kind of throwing it into something else. it was just like messed with your mind because you didn't really know what you were looking at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or
And
where
also-
it was coming from.
Yeah, and I think that therefore it's hard to. Yeah, I just saw it as a bit of fun really, and it hasn't done me any harm obviously. So I just kind of, is that you or me?
Or mine.
Oh, it might be me.
Might be you.
I thought I'd turn mine off. Turn mine off and have it up. Sorry.
That's
I
all
do
right.
apologise.
No problem. Finally, wiki true, wiki false. These are things
Go
of
on.
Wikipedia,
Go on then.
and all of one knows whether they're true or false. So, you were a T-boy at Stock Aitken and Waterman when you were discovered? True or false?
No, it's 50-50. I was discovered by Waterman, if that's what you want to call it, discovered.
Was he sitting on a toy train going around to this guy?
Almost. And then basically assigned to make a record, and they got really busy, so I ended up making tea instead for a bit, yeah.
Were you a choir boy in church at the age of 10?
I was.
Did you work for your dad after leaving school?
I did indeed, and before leaving school as well.
You wanted to concentrate on a career in hairdressing?
No, my friends, one of my best friends is a hairdresser, and I helped him set up the business once.
Right, okay. Never Gonna Give You Up was recorded on New Year's Day?
No, that's rubbish as well, actually. No, it was recorded probably, I reckon, September to November time, around that. I can't remember exactly, but it was definitely in the kind of autumn of '86.
But they didn't make you go in on New Year's Day and
No.
record.
I don't know where that came from, actually. I don't know what that was about. I think that was a Watermanism, really. I think Pete likes to... He gets a story in his head that makes, you know, good sense to him in terms of like a bit of publicity and what have you, and runs with it.
And it sticks.
And we've all kind of had to run along with that as well sometimes, yeah.
Together Forever kept you off the top spot was kept on the top spot by I Should Be So Lucky.
See, I don't remember that. But you see, I wouldn't have been there either.
No, you'd have been
And
touring.
that's the thing. I would have been somewhere else. So I can't. And obviously, you know, you got fuzzy faxes that told you what was the chart position you had back in the UK. But yeah, I can't even remember, to be honest. Yeah.
Some of your material was destroyed in a fire at Stock Aitken
Yeah, that is
Waterman?
true. That's very true. You know, one half of a building. Interesting that, just one half.
Just the ghastly half.
One half of a building burnt down, and yeah, all the tapes and all the gear and everything that was in there. But I mean, it wasn't the end of the world because. You know, I just had to do the vocals again, and we had to record the tracks again. But it was a bunch of tracks, and we'd only just done them, so we kind of knew and remembered what we were doing.
Right, so it wasn't...
It's just the fact that when you've done it, and you've kind of said, right, that's done, that's mixed, that's finished, you kind of think, you know, it is hard to go over the old... Do you know what I mean? It's hard to just go and do it again, but anyway, there you go.
You have the Guinness record for the first male solo artist to have 8 singles all in the top 10.
See, I don't know. I've heard that a few times. Evidently it's true because it's in the Guinness Book of Records, but maybe they could be wrong. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest. I've had a few, but...
Lovely. That's Wiki True or False. How do you like to relax when you're not doing your gigs?
How do I like to relax?
Martin Fry's going cycling around like
Yeah,
Rodney
no,
Williams.
he's seriously fit, Martin, these days. He's, you want to see him in shorts, by the way.
I don't know whether I do.
No, you do. I've had the pleasure to see Martin in shorts a few times around a few pools in exotic places around the world. Yeah, I live pretty close to River Thames, and I like to walk by the Thames a lot, listen to music and what have you, and go for a walk and stuff. I do bike a bit as well. But just hanging out, really.
What's your favourite album at the moment then you listen to?
Oh, it's difficult. I usually go for the old stuff, to be honest. Every now and again I'll get something new and I'll kind of play that to death. But most of the time I kind of go for stuff like Bill Withers, Al Green, all my old kind of favourites like that. I mean, I do listen to new stuff, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of, I don't know, it's just a different world that we live in terms of that, because my old albums that I've always loved since I was a kid, I know them as albums, so I won't kind of listen to them like that.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of new stuff, you download
the
stuff,
track,
you download it, and you've got that mentality a little bit more, I think. So, and I'm an old, old whatever, and even I find that difficult. You know what I mean? So I'm sure younger people, that's all they've ever done. I'm sure they find it really hard to just put a record on from beginning and listen to the end of it, because it's not. You don't have to do that anymore.
So we're at an 80s gig. Are you just doing the 80s tracks, or are you going to sneak a couple of
I might
others in?
sneak one in, I think. Yeah, I'm not going to bore anybody. Let's put it that way. No, but listen, I totally get it. If it's just my gig, I'm doing a club or a smaller venue or a theatre or what have you, I can play what I want because the audience will come to see me. And if I can probably get away with playing the Spoons for a few minutes and they'll be okay with it. But obviously, when it's a kind of a line-up gig where there's other artists on as well, you have to respect the fact of what it is, and that's that. Yeah.
So it won't be